domestic politics that has begun over the SCO Summit. Viewers, India scored a big diplomatic victory at SCO with a joint declaration making a pointed mention of the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack. This is a big shift from June, when the joint statement issued after SCO Defence Ministers meeting carried no mention of Pahalgam. Remember, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had then refused to sign the document in protest. 2 months later, the Tianjin Declaration states that perpetrators, organizers and sponsors of attacks such as that in Pahalgam must be brought to justice. It also termed the double standards in fight against terror unacceptable. The reiteration of the message which was earlier delivered by Prime Minister Modi in his SCO address. You just saw Prime Minister's bonhomie with China and Putin, with Xi in China and Putin. Now, Pakistan, on the other hand, was left cornered and isolated as the Russia-India-China troika rises again. But it seems, viewers, these outcomes are not enough for the opposition, which is once again searching for misses instead of the hits in Prime Minister's China visit.
No Prime Minister would resort to this shamelessness. Until few weeks ago, months ago, China and Pakistan were fighting us together in Operation Sindoor. And now China has become a victim of terror for this Prime Minister. Shameless.
चाइना ने जिस तरह से भारतवर्ष की जमीनों पर कब्जा किया, जो अब मैं बार बार देख रहा हूं कि जो ये है पाकिस्तान को सपोर्ट किया, इसमें सिंदूर ऑपरेशन में उन्होंने सपोर्ट किया। वो लोग जो पाकिस्तान को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, खुलेआम उनको हथियार दे रहे हैं, उनके साथ हम जाके बात कर रहे हैं, इसका मतलब क्या है?
President Trump is saying Indian economy is dying. President Trump is saying we will teach them a lesson. Who? The India. And what was our answer? A big deafening silence from Modi.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
On this debate, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, continues to be with us. We are joined by Tuhin Sinha, National Spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Also with us is Sanjay Jha, who is an author. Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen. Sanjay Jha, I want to begin this discussion with you. Will you like to congratulate Prime Minister Modi? Big win for Bharat at the SCO. Tianjin Declaration condemns Pahalgam terror attack in Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's presence.
Heena, good evening to you and to Sushant as well as Tuhin. What is the real truth? The truth is that when we attacked Pakistan, when Operation Sindoor began, we told the world that the country that perpetrated the horror in Pahalgam was Pakistan. And yet, even till today, whether it was with BRICS nations or now with the SCO, all you get is a condemnation of the Pahalgam terror. I don't think any sensible country will condone that violence. But no one specifically named Pakistan. So I think let's take a deep breath here. What is the truth, Heena? The truth is the same BJP and the same entire right-wing ecosystem. And, it's on tapes, right? It's in the public domain. You can just Google it in 1 minute. And you'll get to know that they were belligerent against China. And everyone was talking about this whole Donald Trump and Narendra Modi bromance. And the tragedy, Heena, for India is that right now we are caught between a rock and a hard place, largely because of the extremely sloppy foreign policy. And I'm being very charitable when I say that it's been an absolutely insipid policy. Just think about it for a moment. Yes, I agree that Donald Trump is unpredictable, unstable, and, he's a maverick, he's very mercurial. Nobody is taking that away. Absolutely not. I concede that point. But here is the other truth that you cannot ignore. That at this point of time, it's on record. I mean, the Deputy Chief of Staff of India has publicly stated, as we all know as well, that China literally fought this as a two-front war with Pakistan from its shoulders against us. Will we forget the JL-35 fighter jets or the PL-15 missiles? Will we ignore the satellite intelligence that they gave to Pakistan?
Okay.
I mean, China helped Pakistan get nuclear, ladies and gentlemen. So what are we talking about? So suddenly we are talking about being victims of terror, let me tell the viewers of Times Now that China vetoed in the UN Security Council the attempt by India to sanction the Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists who attacked India. So what are we gloating over? It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Tuhin Sinha, Sanjay Jha says, what are we gloating over? We haven't really achieved anything. I mean, it doesn't really make any difference that on June 26th at the SCO Defence Ministers meeting, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh refused to sign the declaration, the document there, because it did not mention Pahalgam. Now, we have seen a declaration, the Tianjin document coming out, wherein Pahalgam was mentioned. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while being in China, said that, those who support terrorists, those who support terrorism, their double standards are not going to be accepted at all. He made that statement, but, what are we gloating over? What have we achieved? Foreign policy has failed is the view of Sanjay Jha. Please respond.
Yeah, I'll explain you. Well, good evening, Heena. Good evening, everybody. Today is a historic day insofar as our diplomacy is concerned. And on a day like this, the venomous reaction of Congress Party comes from its remembrance of multiple failures, Congress Party's multiple failures in dealing with China. You need to understand we are living in a multipolar world and multipolar Asia, words which have been repeatedly emphasized by India. And in this world, in this when we needed rebalancing, our calibrated approach under Prime Minister Modi has been quick to seize the initiative. There is no doubt about the fact that there is a historic trust deficit with China. But we need to go ahead with guarded optimism because that is the need of the hour. Now, never before from a SCO Summit has a leader taken such an unequivocal and firm stand against terrorism as Prime Minister Modi did today. Not only that, he called out the double standards of those countries which secretly support terrorism, which obviously I don't need to explain, which country he was referring to. Prime Minister was equally vocal in using the words connectivity that transgresses, connectivity that is impaired by that transgresses upon sovereignty cannot be trusted. It defies trust. Obviously, we don't need to explain that the reference was to one road, one belt policy of China. But the problem with this Congress Party is, in the 11 years that they have been away from power, they have lost the art of, decoding and being able to comprehend global issues. Prime Minister Modi stood up to China during the Galvan clash. He stood up to America when America imposed unfair tariffs upon us. This was something which no previous Congress government could do. Congress governments were always cavalier in their approach. Moving ahead, we are cognizant of the potential dangers of the potential threats of this association, but we believe in guarded optimism. I can give you quickly 3 assurances as the national spokesperson of BJP. We will never get into any secret MOU the way Congress Party did with CCP in 2008. Okay. Number 2, we will not cede an inch of ground, Indian land, the way Congress Party did 38,000 square kilometers over, many decades. Okay. And number 3, I am sure there have been certain assurances from the Chinese side insofar as Pakistan is concerned. But again, Sanjay may not understand it, Congress Party may not understand it. All of these things cannot be made public.
Okay. Quick rebuttal, Sanjay Jha.
Yeah, Heena, thank you very much. This is the whole irony. There's a lot of speech, a lot of rhetoric. Clearly, Tuhin has come with all these superlatives in place, but it doesn't change the reality, Heena, that today China is basically being the military partner of Pakistan. Number 2, it's backed it on terrorist attacks against India. It actually has not allowed vetoes against the LET terrorists. Again, we also know for a fact, right, that China and Pakistan have a relationship that goes back to the 1960s. I mean, that's an enduring strategic relationship. So today, in desperation, because this Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar and this Howdy Modi bromance has now become an absolute mammoth disaster for India, where our innocent people are going to lose jobs and a 50% tariff, that India is actually cornered. And you are now in such a desperate position that going to for the SCO Summit is being celebrated by Tuhin Sinha as a master stroke. I mean, this kind of absolute pathetic about turns are embarrassing. Do you know about what you did with Turkey? You talk about banning Turkey.
Sushant Sareen, so Sanjay Jha feels that India is cornered to such an extent that Prime Minister Modi going for the SCO Summit to China should actually be seen as a sign of desperation. You've heard the politicians, on the debate so far. What do you like to tell them?
Look, Heena, a couple of things. One, are we in a sweet spot? No, we are not. To that extent, I agree with what Sanjay is saying. There are serious challenges, strategic challenges going to be facing us going forward, and how we are going to be balancing between some of our interests that are attached to the West and some of our interests that are going to be attached to the non-Western bloc, which seems to be forming. And how do we tread that fine line? It is going to be, it has come now, it could come 5 years from now, but that challenge was always going to come, and we would always have had to confront it and pick up a side or try and balance between the two. To that extent, I agree with Sanjay. All of this other stuff, that's political. India is very desperate now, and in our sheer desperation we've gone. I can just as well turn around and say, well, it's a more point of time in which the Chinese are just as worried about what's happening with the United States and are also desperate and want to settle some of their issues, or at least, disarm India going into another bloc. And maybe they see an opportunity. Maybe this is a point where our interests have started converging. Secondly, I think Sanjay probably understands it, but maybe he's making again a political point. In multilateral forums in which participating countries are never named or shamed. If Sanjay can give me a single instance in a multilateral forum where a party, where a country which is a party to that particular multilateral forum has been condemned or has been named and shamed in that particular forum. It doesn't happen. So I think the formulation which we've seen in today's declaration is as best as we could have hoped for, and much better than what happened when the Raksha Mantri went on a trip recently and came back without, did not allow that particular resolution to go through. And finally, again, allow me to say this, Heena, it's okay. And I don't disagree that yes, the Chinese have done what they have done. But not too long back, maybe just 2 decades back, this was a similar situation with the United States, which was turning a blind eye to Khalistani and Kashmiri terrorism, which was coming into India from Pakistan. They never interfered in that. They never condemned the Pakistanis, who were their closest ally, most allied ally. The Americans turned a blind eye to Pakistan's nuclear program. Completely. They gave them complete impunity until they had got a bomb. The Americans were the Pakistanis to the teeth. They were sharing intelligence with them. And that did not stop us from a diplomatic outreach to America to bring our relationship on an even keel. So if we are trying to do something similar with the Chinese, I don't think we have blinkers on our eyes. I don't think anybody is in that mode that Hindi Chini bhai bhai and that, we are overflowing with love for the Chinese. But in international relations, even when you have very testy relations with countries, they can virtually change overnight when your interests start converging. Or there is a degree of convergence in your interest, which is what we are seeing right now. So if you look at it in that context, it makes sense. Baki, if you want to criticize something and oppose for the sake of opposition, it's a free country. Sanjay is free to do whatever.
That's the point. Criticism and dissent are essential to any democracy, but shouldn't they be based on the facts? And Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you one thing. Why is there inconsistency when it comes to Congress party's stand on this particular issue? Because in February only, Congress leader, popular leader there, Sam Pitroda had stated that India needs to collaborate with China rather than confront it. He had also said that India should stop viewing China as an enemy and change its mindset. In the last few months also, we've heard several top Congress netas coming out and saying that we've made another enemy, that is China, because of Modi's foreign policy. And now when attempts are being made to mend the ties without compromising on national interest, questions are being raised. Why is there so much of inconsistencies in the stance of the Congress party? Sanjay Jha, then Tuhin Sinha.
You know, Heena, that's a very pertinent question. And my answer to that will be that if you heard Sushant, and Sushant and I have disagreed on many issues in public forums, including television, sometimes a little acrimoniously as well. But Sushant's response was a nuanced response. I mean, very different from what my friend Tuhin, as a spokesperson of a political party, said. I agree as well with many of the points that Sushant has made. Yes, just because you are probably you are non-aligned doesn't mean that you are effectively not having conversations with people. It just means that you are not politically part of any specific camp. I'll give you an example. I do believe...
No, I don't have a lot of time. So if you have an answer to that specific question that I asked you.
Yeah, so let me answer you very clearly that I do feel that today, with even the NATO's Secretary General making an extremely aggressive statement of India, on India, I think we should be aware. My only worry is, are we overreacting? Have we stopped all negotiations with the United States? I mean, these are questions that will need to be answered, because let's not deny this. At the end of the day, the truth is that America has a strategic influence all over the world. It is currently...
I asked you about our relationship with China. I asked you specifically about the suggestion that was made by Mr. Sam Pitroda.
I think in the light of Operation Sindoor, India should be extremely circumspect.
Okay.
And I believe all this extremely over-enthusiastic response by my friend Tuhin Sinha could be a case of misplaced overconfidence.
Okay, Tuhin Sinha, quick response.
Well, my response was more real than enthusiastic, but then, Sanjay would view it his own way. The problem is the Congress party is in a time warp. From non-alignment, we have moved under Modi ji, we have moved into the era of proactive multi-alignments. We realize that, our relations today cannot have that element of permanence. Please don't Bhajan, have that courtesy. No, there is a difference. There is a difference. We are balancing many different blocks, which you guys were incapable of. I don't need to dwell into history, but allow me to complete, please. Today, the fresh RIC alliance provides a temporary cushion to us. And since, Sanjay was inquisitive to know about the future of our relationship with US, let me tell him that we are very confident that we will have a, realliance with US sooner than later, but on our terms. That's the beauty of our foreign policy, which Congress people do not understand.
All right. I'll have to move on.